Hi, everyone. Welcome to True Disabled Story. My name is Nico, and I use he, him pronouns. I'm a white man with parted blonde hair, large blue and brown spectacles, and a short sleeve white button up shirt with colorful flowers on it. I'm seated against a blurred out background. Like roughly 25% of Americans and a full 17% of Philadelphians, I'm disabled. Whether we look locally, nationally, or globally, disabled communities are full of dynamic, diverse, and frankly delightful people with their own stories to tell. All we have to do is listen. As many of you know, I was born disabled. I've never known differently, and I will probably always be disabled. So when I come into contact with other disabled people, either in my personal, professional, or civic life, I'm always curious about their own stories and what perspectives they have to share. Today, I'm sorry. Today, I'm honored to be joined by my friend Malakai, and I can't wait to hear what's new with him. So let's get into it. Hi, Malakai. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me today.
Awesome. So, Malakai, tell us, what was your path to diagnosis like? Was this something your family was expecting, or was it something that came as a surprise? Paint that picture for us.
So my diagnosis was really kind of early in life. I was born about 4 months premature. I was 2 pounds 8 ounces. So when I think about just that path, it was kind of like what I've always known. I think the path to like true acceptance of myself and like how I navigate society with my disability and diagnosis has been the true like path of like surprise because I think that's been the true journey for me.
Remarkable. Thank you. Uh, as we were speaking before we began recording, Malakai's had a real um, up year. I loved hearing about his accomplishments, which I'm sure he'll share about later on. So, Malachi, how has your diagnosis impacted your life as you've grown, as your worldview has grown? Tell us more about that.
Um, I think it's kind of shaped not only how I interact within society, but just the things that I do. It has presented challenges when it comes to living independently and just sort of getting around and accessing services. I do live, halfway across the country from where I was born. So I have really had to learn how to access services and advocate for the things that I need on my own, but that has also instilled like just strength and resilience to be able to like advocate for myself. And I think also just adding in like the different intersectionalities that I have has really kind of helped me hone in on like the things that I need.
That's wonderful. Thank you for that answer. If you could go back in your own timeline and give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be? Or even if you could advise someone younger than yourself in the CP community.
To those that have CP and similar things, I think the first thing I would tell them is like fully embrace who you are and don't be afraid to seek out like supportive communities and the things that you need. I think as someone in the disability community, sometimes we have trouble in asking for the things that we need. And I think the biggest advice that I could give myself as well as others is just like I'm the own expert at my life. And I think sometimes when we're dealing with providers, it's very hard to remember that when we're kind of stating what we need and the things that help us do things easier. It's just remembering that we're our own experts at the end of the day.
This is so wise, Malachi. Thank you. I've really enjoyed hearing your replies and perspectives on these questions. As our time together draws to a close, I want to use this fourth question just as space that you and I, Malachi, as disabled people, so rarely get, and that is a chance to promote yourself, brag about any recent or upcoming wins you've got. If you're interested in building community, some folks have shared like their social media handles. So yeah, just a chance to be your own cheerleader, hop up on a soapbox and belt it out.
So, everyone can feel free to connect with me on Instagram and Facebook at Malakai Strong. It's just my full name. And I would say my most recent, and maybe not so recent, but something that I still celebrate to this day is self-publishing my first book at the end of last year. I think that just being disabled and having all the intersectionalities that I do, that is just a win within itself to be able to put myself out there in a way that has really just challenged me being outside of my comfort zone and kind of going back to what you said at the beginning of this, like we all have a story to share and perspectives. And so I think the book really allowed me to do that.
That's awesome, Malachi. Did you ever imagine that you would be a published author?
No, I think there were lots of people that I grew up with and sort of former teachers that always maybe thought that, but even like a year ago, you could never tell me that I would have done this, let alone like while in grad school. So I probably don't recommend that component of it, but it's still like it was still a very unique process.
That's remarkable. Hey, no matter what you do next, I'm rooting for you. Thank you again.
Yes.